Thank you for joining us today. Head over to Apple Podcast and please leave us a 5-star review. Also, leave your name and your location, and we'd love to give you a shout out on our next show. But today's episode, we have Emily. We found her on TikTok. Her username is Liker of Words. She is magic, and she teaches others how to recognize and grow their own spiritual magic. We hope you enjoy this interview, but we want you to head over to her TikTok and follow her. We do want to remind you and all of our listeners that next week on April 5th at 1 o'clock, we have a local celebrity, Suzanne Jacques, on our show. Suzanne Jacques is a professional intuitive consultant psychic, radio personality, author, speaker, and she's a regular on our show. This is your opportunity to call in through Zoom and ask her 1 or 2 specific questions. The more specific your question is, the more specific your answer will be. To be added to our Zoom call, you need to email me at salonsleuths@yahoo.com. We hope you enjoy today's interview and discover your own magic.
So we have Emily Dexter with us today, and we've been cyber stalking her on TikTok. She is a professional psychic, a best-selling author, spiritual coach, and the CEO of Forgotten Storytellers. Emily Davis began accessing her spiritual gifts as a child, and over the years, all the fear and yuck of the modern day life got in the way of that magic. And after leaving an abusive relationship, she set out on the quest to recapture her spirit. Now, Emily specializes in helping people discover their purpose in life through unblocking their intuitive gifts, Leslie, and channeling abilities and learning to use them without fear. It is her mission to make magic part of everyday nor ordinary life. She also runs writing retreats for those who want to create channeled novels that activate their readers but do not know where to start. Emily and her family, including her many furry muses, adventure from Lake Tahoe, California, where she also co-hosts her metaphysics comedy podcast, Perceptions Anonymous. And you can find her on www.damselnomore.com or Instagram.com, Liker of Words. But we have also been stalking you on TikTok, which I think is also Liker of Words, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That's my handle and everything. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the places.
Okay. So you have had a really interesting kind of travel to this point. I want to hear a little bit. We have a lot of women listeners too. And, you know, we talk about a lot of abusive relationships, and I didn't know that part of your background. Yeah. How did that make you who you are today? And how did that especially dampen your spirit and who you were? And then you are now obviously blooming and shining again.
Awesome. Well, that's a fantastic question. So it has kind of a long answer, and I'll try to keep it relatively, short and sweet for the listeners.
We do have an hour, so.
Yeah. Well, also just thank you very much for that marvelous introduction. I genuinely appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yeah. So some background. When I was very young, I had my psychic abilities very open and flowing. It was very natural for me. I didn't realize that anyone else didn't see the world that way. I thought it was just super normal to hear information about the adults in your life from sources that were not them in the back of your head, or, see your spirit guides in the corner of your room when you were a kid, or, talk to spirits and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I thought that was just life, because I was a little kid. So how would I know any different? And I remember being 7 or 8 years old and going to my mom and being like, hey, so these things kind of happened to me. And of course I was 7. So I explained it horribly. Yes. And she was kind of like, okay, go play. Because what do you really say to that? Which fair enough. And it was a different time when this wasn't as open and there wasn't a lot of resources or, internet that you could even go look at. So that started to make me question, whoa, is this not normal? Am I not normal? And then as I progressed kind of into my middle school and high school, I started to really suppress all of this stuff because I realized, one, other people didn't get it. And I was already an awkward, artistic, I'm 5'10" and have been this height since the 5th grade. So
you were tall. I could tell you were a tall girl.
Very tall person.
So I'm 5'11" and 3/4 at my highest. So exactly, I felt like you were a tall girl.
I am. I'm very tall. And so I was already just like awkward in that space too. So I was suppressing a lot of myself in order to fit in and do all those things. And that included my psychic gifts, which did basically two things. The first of which is it made me doubt my intuition completely because I was suppressing all of my intuition, even the like classic gut feeling, all of that things in favor of other people. And then it also made all psychic things very scary because now I didn't understand them. I didn't have tools to understand them. And it was now something that was not normal and therefore scary.
And your mom didn't have this ability?
No, I mean, not really. If it's there, and she's a wonderful human. Both my parents are fantastic. They just aren't as in tune. My dad's a little bit more in tune than I think my mom is in a lot of capacities. But it's not something that you really knew how to deal with or help with in a lot of ways. And even when I was like a senior in high school, my mom would sleep in bed with me most nights because I was so scared of stuff coming through in my dreams and, you know, my ghosts popping into my bedroom and all these things that she wasn't afraid of. She was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I know, just sleep with me. It's fine. The problem that those two things kind of caused in my life is I was constantly seeking external validation from other people to validate my experience as a person, kind of at the core of it, because I felt so misunderstood by everyone and everything. And the things that I was going through, I just wanted people to accept me for without me having to actually tell them about it because I didn't want them to know. I just wanted them to care. And that made me a prime target for a fantastic narcissistic sociopath of a human. And so I started dating him right at the beginning of my senior year of high school. Right after I graduated high school, I ended up having my first child with him. And then we got married and I had my second child. And it was, I mean, looking back on it, I'm like, oh, it was horrible from the start. At the time, that's when stuff really started to go downhill is once we got married. And it was horribly abusive and all those sort of things. And of course, in that space, there was no room for any psychic anything, because if you're in fight or flight, magic doesn't exist. Energy stuff doesn't exist. You just are trying to survive till tomorrow, which of course I was in. And so then when I finally got out of that, the way that it really shaped me in a lot of ways is I realized I had kind of run out of things to be scared of. Like I had spent
good one.
I'd spent so much time afraid that I was just kind of like done. And of course I'm like, cool, yay, psychic stuff, come back then, I'm ready. And then it didn't. And I was like, I don't understand. It led to a lot of like worth things associated with me. I'm like, I used to be able to do this. Did he take this too? And that's what really kickstarted my journey into, no, there has to be a way to unblock these things. And that's what I did. And so how
did you reach inside and say, this actually is okay because this is me? How did you decide that your gifts were worth rekindling and not just saying, hey, you know what, that doesn't serve me because the rest of the world doesn't really believe in that?
Well, the truth of it is that if I had had this experience from the time I was a really little kid, there obviously is some reason.
Yeah.
The other part of it is like I had that kind of intuitive pull, that intuitive knowing that a lot of the world is truly kind of waking up. And this is something that is coming to the forefront. And it was something that before my abusive relationship, people didn't talk about in the MySpace days, you know, that wasn't a thing. And now we're moving into, well, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Like there's things that is more accessible where other people are doing this. And these things that I've felt drawn to my entire life, people are talking about now. And so it was also part of my mission to radically accept myself, because he hated everything about me and wanted to change everything about me. So it was also a way of
he actually hated everything about himself, but that's a side point. That's for another day, right?
Right. But in the perspective of the time, I'm like, okay, so he hated everything about me. So as a middle finger to him, I'm reclaiming all of it. It's all mine.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
And so that's kind of where that came from too.
Okay, good. Good. Well, I'm going to let Leslie talk too, because she's been binging you.
Oh, I'm just listening. I love all this.
But you talk so much about how ordinary people can unlock their gifts. And we've been doing this podcast for now 1 year. And I thank you. And I have always known Leslie has some gifts in this department. And I have had glimmers of hope, but I have tried some of your things and I do not feel like I really connect. But with that said, my dear friend Leslie did last week in preparation for you coming on. she did this thing. So she has to tell you that story. And then you have to tell me why it doesn't work for me. Or do I not have faith, or kind of what? How am I blocked? What do I need to do?
You got it.
Well, I think part of my problem is like I want to figure it all out. I want to have like, I want to understand it all to make sense. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I probably was born with some of these things. And as a child, I knew things that when I would talk to my dad, he would say, oh my gosh, you did this and this and this. I don't remember those times. And I have no idea when and how it shut down, because even in high school, like we would dabble with like the Ouija board, and we did we hung out in cemeteries. We were those weird kids, and luckily I found friends that in school, we didn't communicate in school, but outside of school, like we came from totally different friend groups, but somehow on the weekends we connected, and we could all be these weirdos together. But then it never really came back. And then every time like I would try to go back to the material world and make that important, for some reason this other world always comes back, right? It just keeps coming back. But I was listening to one of your TikToks, and it said you said you have to be specific with your angels or your guides. Tell them exactly like what sign that you want, right? Like, and make it very specific. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I think I was actually right where I'm sitting right now. And I said, okay, if I'm on the right path and I am like going the right direction, give me the sign. I like numbers. I'm terrible with numbers, but I like numbers. So I said, give me the 317 sequence in a row, like, because my name is 317537 upside down, it spells Leslie.
Oh,
so whenever
cute.
I see those like sequence in any sort of, I'm like, oh, that's a good sign, right? So I'm like, okay, give me that sign if I'm like on the right path. And then I can't even remember exactly, but it was like within minutes. I go upstairs, and then I was thinking, gosh, maybe that's too hard. Like 317, really? That's and then I also said, like, if you're with me, like if you're just with me, let me know by showing me eights, because I love 8. And so I wasn't even a few minutes later, I go upstairs and I get a phone call, and it's from our area code's 503-317. And I'm like, okay, what? So I answer it, and it's a wrong number. Some girl's asking for Tony. And then I'm like, okay, that's really weird.
Did that just happen?
Is that a really weird coincidence? Or did that just happen? Like, and then, so my problem is always second guessing those things. Like, that was really weird. And then part of me is like, okay, well, now I put that in my thought that that's my sequence. I might, like, it's like when you see a yellow bug. You never see one until you're like, oh, that's a cool color. And then you see them all the time. So how do you trust when you actually now bring it to your mind that that's what you want to see, that it is what you see, or it's your guides, or is it just now that you're paying attention?
So first of all, to validate that experience, totally your guides. Are you kidding me? That is the most guide-driven story.
I'm like, what are the chances? Like, I even kept that log. I like screenshotted it, because like no one's going to believe that I missed a phone call from a 317. I'm like, what did that? Like, and I'm like, okay, so I thought that was too hard. Apparently not.
Oh no.
Do that. Like, okay, I got that. Like, and I see 8s all the time.
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help
Sorry.
with?
Siri. And that never
Great
happened.
timing.
I don't know why that happened. Anyway,
That was your spirit guides.
something.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you trust?
I understand.
Oh my gosh, sorry, my phone is going crazy. How does like a normal person, like who's reaching out and wanting that, how do they know to trust that?
So that is a great question. There's a couple different things that I always kind of go with on this kind of answer. The first of which is, yes, there is confirmation bias, and I do understand that is a thing. However, when you get a sign, it is a very different feeling from you seeing it all the time. Like, for example, your wrong number phone call, like, what the heck, that came out of nowhere. And I was right when I needed it. That was very important.
Right.
The other side of that too, like, for example, my validation is rainbows. Like, rainbows are things that people, emojis they send people all the time and that sort of thing. However, when I first selected those, I live in Tahoe, so it's like sunny or it's snowing. There's no in between. So I'm like, I'm never going to see rainbows. And then my daughter came home from school today, and she had colored rainbows all over a piece of paper and was like, look, it's rainbows. Look what I learned to draw. And I was like, okay, I get it. So there's a different layer that comes onto it. Do I feel like it's a validation every single time I get a rainbow? I do.
Okay.
Because even if I'm calling it in, even if that I am like, this is what I want to see, and then I see those, why could that not be my guides validating me?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, even if I saw it constantly, that's still a validation from them coming like, hey, we're constantly with you. The other thing that you can do though with that is when you do see that validation, you're more than welcome to ask for further validation.
Okay.
Like there's no reason to be like, oh, you sent me the numbers. Yay, thanks, bye. Like you can be
Now
like,
what?
oh, yeah. Oh, I got these numbers. Is there other things you need to tell me? Did I in fact actually see those? Will you validate this further for me? And sometimes it'll come as they send you the numbers again, or they send you the validation right then. Sometimes someone will walk by on a cell phone and be like, yeah, totally, absolutely. And you'll be like, okay, thank you. I hear you there. Or it could even be that you're like sitting outside and a bird lands next to you. Like there's so many different things. But the thing is to check in with yourself and be like, does this feel like a validation?
Yeah.
If it does, the answer is yes, because you are the authority on it.
Well, it did. And then I second guess it. Right. And then I was like, and then I thought that same thing. Maybe I should ask for more. And then I was like, that was probably really hard to make that happen. Like to get somebody to accidentally call the wrong number, because like typically in our area, that isn't like a normal 3-digit in the beginning of a phone number. That's not a normal, you know, we have like, I don't know, cell phones, 880s or, you know, whatever. Like that just, I'm like, okay, so why I don't need to ask for more. I get it. Thank you very much. Like, but that was really a crazy moment. Like one other time, a long time
looked
ago,
at the clock and seen it was 3:17 too. I
Yeah.
mean, I think she's right. I think if you're questioning it, you should ask for more validation, but you also should trust yourself.
Well, additional to that, and I actually use doubt as one of the strongest validations you can get. And here's why. Because our human brain is designed, and I've read tons of books on this, designed to essentially keep us alive. Like at the core, our brain wants our body not to die. So if yesterday, even if we did nothing but cry and, you know, sit in under our blankets and, you know, hide from the world, we didn't die. So our brain would like us very much to do that same thing, because that thing equals not death. So anytime we receive new information, whether that is an intuitive ping where you all of a sudden hear something from your spirit guides inside your head, or if you see a validation and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a new thing, our brain is very, very logically going to slap it with doubt, because it didn't come from within us. It didn't come from what they have deemed as safe, which is a way to validate yourself. Because if you get an intuitive ping and it immediately is slapped with doubt, that means it didn't come from inside your own brain. Because if it did, our brain would be like, we're so awesome. We thought of a thought.
That makes sense.
Exactly. Instead, it's like, oh, this came from something external. This is new and therefore scary. We're going to doubt it.
Okay. Which makes me think of the past lives thing that I had, where I like doubted it as immediately as it happened. Like I was like, did that really happen? Like, where did that even come from? Like, I feel like I just made that up. Like, okay, that makes sense. You do doubt things. Yeah.
Doubt, overwhelm, and confusion are our brain's main tools that they use to keep us stuck doing the same thing we did yesterday.
So how do you think, well, I shouldn't interrupt Leslie if she had more things.
No, it's all good. I'm listening.
Okay. So how did you come from such a broken place and get to such a healing place and know that your intuition was still intact when it potentially, your intuition led you through that experience, right? It got you to an abusive relationship. So how did you get on the other side and go, you know what? I actually am going to trust my intuition. Or do you feel like you didn't maybe trust your intuition to get to that place? How did you kind of think about that kind of stuff?
A couple of things with that. The first of which, I knew I wasn't really necessarily trusting my intuition. I was trusting the validation that I really wanted to receive from others. So he was validating me. So I was like, yes, this is what I actually want. This is what I feel like I need to be valued. So I'm going to follow that. So I stopped following those things, which is essentially stopped following life from a place of fear. Gotcha. Kind of at the core of it. I stopped diving into those things, but that required a lot of work on my end. However, the big change for me, I think, came because I did everything you could possibly imagine a person could do for heal. I did therapy. I am certified in Reiki and theta healing and all these other things. I've read so many books, and none of it was really working 100%. Until I really was like, well, part of it's because a lot of these things, and they don't do it intentionally, it's not on purpose, but a lot of the narrative around healing is it's going to be really hard, but it'll be worth it. And it's going to be challenging and it'll be worth it. And for me, I'm like, I did the challenging already. So I am resentful as hell against you coming in and telling me it's going to be hard to get better. Like, I don't want to do it. So that's what keeps happening in my energy. And so then basically using a whole bunch of those things, and then through my own channeling and just getting more guidance around it, I was like, what if we made it easy to heal and release these beliefs? What if we made it easy to do these things? And the more I released it, the more I was shown, the more I was guided towards things, and the more trust I established in and of myself. And the more you're presented with like, hey, you made it through that, but one, you lived.
Yeah.
Two, you're here and you're doing new things.
Yeah.
So obviously you've done enough stuff right to get to this point.
And
So,
isn't it kind of exciting that you're doing all these amazing things?
oh yeah.
I mean, could you have
absolutely.
imagined yourself being in this TikTok social media world? Like, I know your face. I feel like I know you, but you have never seen me before.
I mean, no, it was not anything I ever like imagined for myself necessarily. However, it is something that now that I'm here, I'm like, of course I'm here. This is exactly what feels right energetically. This is where my energy was all leading to this point, which is where we all are in our lives in a lot of ways. Is like our energy is leading us to these points, and now we get to decide what we go to next and feel the energy leading us to that. And we always take with us the pieces of the energy we carried from them.
Wow. So you've done a lot. Leslie, you need
incredible.
to get going.
Yeah.
Leslie has done hypnosis.
I went through Reiki. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have all the books. I've done everything you have done, except I just haven't made like the time. My house is very busy. You have kids, so I'm like, I can't even use that as an excuse, really. I'm ADD. I have 4 kids. I have 2 dogs. I've got a husband, if you can count him as one of my children.
And you have a full-time job,
but it's hard to find the time to be quiet and to. I mean, I guess maybe you don't have to be quiet. I don't know.
So that's the switch too, is people are like, oh, you need to meditate for like 20 minutes. I'm shit at meditating. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss, but I'm like,
yes, I cuss.
Okay. I'm so bad at it. I always have been, because I have a very active mind. And then that part of it was accepting that it's still meditating, even if your mind is going all over the place while you're sitting there. It's meditating when you're taking a shower. It's allowing yourself this space. It's opening your energetic space. Like as I'm going to the grocery store, I talk to my guides. As I come home, I talk to my guides. It was finding real concrete, simple tools that I could do day in and day out to remove limiting beliefs when I had 5 minutes in between while I was washing the dishes. And, do these things that actually fit with my own life, which was the other kind of thing. And a lot of times people try to fit themselves into boxes that they don't fit in. Because
this is one of the reasons why I like you, is because you're so relatable. Like, I feel like we'd be friends outside of this. Like, well, you are fast paced. You're moving at my speed. Like, you're just moving and shaking. You're not, hello. Now we are.
And sometimes you meet people similar to you, and they start talking in a different world. Like, we can keep up for a while, and then they start talking about stuff. And I feel like, at least with you are maybe used to people like us, where we, our vocabulary and our limits to that. Sometimes they start talking about other dimensions, and I'm like, I can hang on for a little while, and then okay, I'm gone. Like, and then I'm like, Melissa, is that how we sound?
No, Emily sounds cool.
Yeah, no, she like next time I go into Tahoe, I'm gonna be like, "Where's that girl?"
Yeah, I'm gonna cyber stalk her even more.
We'll go get coffee. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
No, I'm totally down with that. We can go get coffee or whatever. More friends, the merrier.
And I remember, like, I don't know if it was your TikTok. I'm sure it was, but cutting cords.
That actually wasn't my TikTok. I haven't addressed that on TikTok yet. I do know how to do it, and I've done it quite a bit.
So sometimes, like, when I have a friend recently that I reconnected with, and she's like terminally ill, but not currently right now. She's just got a disease that's going to be the end of her. And I finally, like, after 2 weeks, my stomach is no longer in knots and like worry for her. And I'm like, am I just worried about her? Or do I actually have like a cord attached to her that I've created to, like, I don't know, give her my energy? I have no idea, but I'm like, I just would feel sick to my stomach for quite a while after being with her. Like,
yeah. Sorry, that's my dog.
I've got 2 in here too.
My little familiar just popping up, like, oh. Well, first of all, energetically, what it feels like, tuning into your energy just a bit. I hope you don't mind. I try not to do anything without permission. So, like, I always preface that. It actually feels like what it is that her energetic experience, not only were you sensing what pain and stuff she was feeling just intuitively within your own energy, but it's also triggering a lot of deep held fears that you have around your own health. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when we have those fears triggered, especially when it's about health issues, we get a physical response because it's related to our physical vessel.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And the best way to kind of dive into those is to kind of list those out, like using I fear statements is what I usually call them. So, like, I fear is it I fear dying, or is it I fear getting really sick, or is it I fear that my body's going to fail me? Like use those actual I fear statements to kind of like write down a fear list.
Yeah.
And then you can write the opposite, or like what the opposite of what it would be like to be without that fear,
Yeah.
So like I am confident in my physical vessel. I trust my body, those sort of things, kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's teaching your human brain except basically what the opposite emotional reaction would be, so that you can start down that path of releasing those.
Okay. I'd also like, I'm it's so stupid, but like I miss the life that she should have had for her. I'm like, why am I even worrying about it for her? Like I'm like, she, in high school was this big, beautiful woman that every boy wanted to know. Right.
Mm-hmm.
To this person that like nobody would recognize now. And I'm like, this is not like, after reconnecting with her, this is not the world I thought she was going to have. And I feel bad for her but she doesn't know. She doesn't know. Like, so I don't know why I feel that way towards her. I mean, I overthink way too much too. Like, yeah.
I think everybody overthinks. It's like
Yeah.
the human condition.
Yeah.
Especially now when we've like out comforted ourselves. So now we have all the comforts that we just get to overthink ourselves like constantly. But part of it feels like it's your natural empathic abilities where you're picking up on things that she might be feeling and things that sort of thing. On the deeper level though, it feels like what it's triggering, and sorry to get super personal right off the bat, but your guides are yelling at me. So I just have to say it, or else they will shut up, as most guides do. You held her in such high esteem that she was going to go all these big places. And if she didn't get to go those big places, what does that mean for you?
Right.
And that's where
totally. I'm like, okay, I'm almost 50. What the hell am I going to do the rest of my life? I've only got like 20 something years left, if that. Like, what do you do? And that probably is very true. Yeah.
So that's what it's kind of triggering in your own energy field.
Okay.
Of you being like, oh crap, I wish she would have had this life, because then I would have perhaps maybe also had a different life. But if she's down in this, like, what am I going to do now? Because what happened for her, I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't see that about Leslie's life. I see Leslie's life as she has these 4 amazing children. She's been an amazing mother who has like tailored her whole career about raising these kids. She's wanted nothing more than a huge family. She'd probably have 3 more kids if she could have, but her doctor said no. She has a husband that she adores. They do not put material things in front of it all else. Like
I can fake this pretty good, can't I? Look at you.
No, that's not fake. That's not the fake part. The fake part.
It's like, let me tell you what the fake part is.
Let me talk about. I actually don't think that Leslie is fake. If anyone, if I said to you, Leslie, you have a perfect life, you're going to tell me, oh God, no. You're going to show me the dirt in the corner, the shoes by the door that got drug in, like you are to me authentically real. So I don't feel like, I feel you've been very successful, but what the measure of success to you versus me may be different.
Yeah.
That would be where in your mind, in your personal self, you may be holding that success something different, a different definition than what I see your definition.
Yeah.
Emily, am I right?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And also it's just limiting beliefs that we all feel. Like at the core of it, regardless of our life, you could be living in a, $4 million home on the beach and having a professional chef make you food. And depending upon your limiting beliefs, you might be like, oh, I've made it, or this is the worst thing ever. I should be serving, African orphan somewhere. Like it literally depends on the things that we believe about ourselves. That is what actually dictates the way our life feels.
Okay.
So when you have clients that come to you, or you meet them by Zoom.
Always Zoom, yeah.
When you first meet them, what are you kind of going over with them? Explain to us like how you work.
The way that I work above everything else is I want you to understand how much power you have in your own life. I want you to awaken to your own magic so that you can do your life. I never want anyone to ever be dependent on me, because you are just as magical as I am. We just have to clear stuff out to get there. And that's kind of how I operate all of my businesses, of which I have more than one. But when I'm doing readings specifically, I tend to focus on, okay, what do you want me? Do you have any specific questions? And then what I'm doing is I'm tuning into your higher self, your energy field, and your spirit guides. And with that, I allow them to come through and point out limiting beliefs, energy blocks. I call it stuff that's gunking up your river, because if we think about
that.
Thank you. If we think about our magic as this flowing river within us, right? Our psychic abilities, we're born, and it might be in different states of being open and flowing. Sometimes we're born and it's dammed up. Sometimes we're born and it's wide open. And throughout our life, though, we spend all of our effort throwing as much garbage into our rivers as possible. So anytime you have a traumatic event happen, in goes garbage. Big traumatic events or small traumatic events. My business partner likes to refer to trauma as like when you were 3 years old and you lost that balloon and all of a sudden now you have abandonment issues. That is trauma.
Oh my gosh.
But throwing those in, big, dense emotional experiences, those go in there. Any limiting beliefs, that's all garbage. You're just like, have some beavers, river, here we go. So you dam yourself up really good. So the whole goal is to let's clear those things out, and then the magic starts flowing again. So at all of the readings that I do, I focus on what the client wants, and then also what the guides show me as far as what I can do to pull and release those beliefs for them.
Can you train people to release their garbage from the river?
Yeah.
Themselves? Like, or is that what you do, or do you do it for them? Like, how does that?
So when I'm doing readings, I do it for you, because there's a lot of training involved and all that sort of thing. So I do it for you. It takes 15 to 30 seconds per belief. Really quick, rapid, pull it. Because again, everything should be easy. It should be fun. Nothing about life should be so overwhelming you can't feel like you can do it in a simple bit of time, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So I think releasing beliefs should be no different than that. And so when I'm doing readings, I do it for you. I do train people. I used to do it in a coaching program kind of setting, and then there became such a kind of demand for it. I'm actually releasing it in a video course.
Okay.
Within the next, I believe, month and a half, 2 months, after it all gets cooked and whatever, made correctly, all the ways that it works. But yeah, so I will be doing it in that. And then also in my my writing business, where I help people to write aligned novels and channeled novels, we do a section on that too. So in the Forgotten Storytellers is what it's called.
So when these things come to you, because I want to know what is damming up my river too, do they just rapid fire at you too? Like, I don't have this. This does not happen to me.
So it does. So the way that you open your psychic abilities is actually way simpler than you've been led to believe. So the first step is to figure out the way that you naturally perceive energetic information. So there's 8 different ways that you can perceive energetic information. And most of the time, people only consider one.
Okay.
So people are like, oh, I see this, or I see this, or I sense this, that sort of thing. When that comes off, it makes it feel like there's one way and one way only that you naturally sense energetic information. When in actuality, there's 8 different ways. They basically go off the senses, and I can go over them in a second if you'd like me to. But you figure out which ones you're most naturally inclined to.
Okay.
Then you start identifying where your limiting beliefs, your stuff you're gunking up your river are, so you can start to pull and release those. And then you can focus on getting intuitive messages based off of the actual psychic sense that you're inclined to using.
Can you look at Melissa?
8 things.
And can you look at Melissa and kind of tell, or do you wait for them to figure out what they are?
Oh, I could totally tell. Yeah. So there's a couple different blocks that are coming up really strongly for you, kind of just right off the top. So for me, I have a lot of what's one of the 8 things. It's called claircognizance, which is the sense of just knowing. And it means out of nowhere, you just know something.
Okay.
And that is the one that oftentimes people completely discount, because there's no energetic proof for your brain to latch onto. Okay. So it's not like, I didn't get an image, I didn't get a sound, I just know it. And it takes a lot of practice for me to be like, yeah, I just know this thing, and just say it. And so that's claircognizance. That's one of the 8 senses. There's also clear seeing. So that's actually clairvoyance. Okay. It doesn't mean seeing the future. It means clear seeing any energetic information.
Like seeing, like you'll see an image of it.
Either in front of your eyes or in your mind's eye.
Okay. What was the first one? Clear knowing?
Clear knowing. Yep.
Okay,
Claircognizance is what it's called. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cognizance.
Then there's clairaudience. So that's when you hear energetic information, either with your physical ears or in your brain ear, your mind's ear.
Okay.
Then there's clairsentience. So that's clear physical feeling. So if you get physical reactions to energetic information, chills, pressures, heats, tightness in your chest, to any type of energetic information. Then there's clairempathy. So that's clear emotional reaction. So emotional feeling to energetic information. So like, for example, if a medium is like, sometimes mediums can just feel the feelings of the past level when they're tuning into, that's clairempathy.
Okay.
And then there's clairtangency, which is clear touch. So when you're touching something, you can get energetic information from it.
Okay.
And that can go, you can still use any gifts. Like sometimes it just means you have to hold a crystal while you tune into past lives. You know what I mean? It's just something that you're tuning into that through your hands. And then there's clairgustance and clairsalience. So that's clear taste and clear smell. And
Oh, wow.
that's
Which
taste
one's
and-
gustance? Is that
Gustance
taste?
is your taste. Yeah.
Okay. And then smell, what was that called?
Clairsalience.
Salience. Oh my gosh, this is fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. So those are with the clair senses, it's just figuring out like, okay, well, I'm a really visual learner. So I probably can have some clairvoyance. Like I'm great doing guided meditation. So I can see things really well in my mind's eye. That's going to be one of your stronger ones then. Or if you're great with audiobooks or music, or, you know, you're a great audio learner, then that's probably going to be one of the strongest senses because you're already naturally prone to that.
Now, can you tell what we're good at, or is that also something we just need to figure out?
No, I can tell.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she got to say yours, Melissa.
I know.
Yeah.
Say mine.
So-
I think I just know things sometimes.
I was going to say right off the top, you have claircognizance, but you've always
Okay.
doubted it. So every time it comes up, you immediately are like, okay, cool. Yeah, no. Or you'll be like, oh, I do need to get off the highway and get gas. You're right. I just need to go do that. And you don't actually think of it as something that you were sent from something external. You're just like, oh, right. I need to do this right now. And then all of a sudden you avoided a 3-car pileup and you're like, that's lucky.
I do think that. I agree with you.
Mhm. So that comes up quite often for you.
Okay.
Melissa,
Also-
that just happened when you guys pulled over and Eric had to take the picture.
It did happen.
And
but that
car
was Eric.
accident. Yeah, so I know
Yeah.
her husband has something, but that might have been you too, though, Melissa.
Maybe. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you do have a lot of, you can feel things with your physical body. So that's the clairsentience. So you feel things. Absolutely. You just often don't know how to interpret the pings that you get, especially because you'll often get heats. I call them heats instead of chills because you'll feel like your body gets really warm out of nowhere. And oftentimes that means that you're picking up on something energetically. Like
I thought that was my hot flashes.
Well, no, they're different than hot flashes because they
Okay.
only last for like a little bit of time while you're receiving it. And all of a sudden it goes away out of nowhere. And you're like, oh, that was funky. And you move on about your day.
Oh, that's weird because I just had one yesterday when I was with my daughter, and I was like, that was weird because I was going to take off my jacket when I got done paying for something, but then it was gone by the time it came. I actually told her that. So that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that called? That was called physical feeling.
That's your clairsentience. Yeah.
Clairsentience. Okay. I'm going to have to.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to monitor that a little bit more, Melissa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also it feels like you are a very visual person. It's just harder for you when you do visualize things and when you do see things in your mind's eye, you're like, that's just my imagination. And a big block that almost all of us have is that our imagination is fake because from the time we're little, we're told it's fake, which it's completely not.
Okay.
It is not fake at all. If you're imagining in the energetic space, like if you're truly tuning in, it's going to feel like imagining because you're being shown things that feel imaginary.
So how do you, you have kids, sometimes I have these horrible thoughts that something's going to happen bad to my children. How do you dissect through whether you're just having a thought or if this is really a, what'd you call clairsentience? I can't say that.
Just if you're having a ping.
Yes, yes.
Most of the time, if I have a really horrible thought pop into my head, the first thought I always have is, okay, this is based on my fear. Because most of the time, you're not going to get pings that are inherently these brutal things that you know are based in your own fear.
Okay. All right, good.
So if it's rooted in your own fear, that's where you're like, cool, this stuff is in my river. Let's clear this stuff out.
Okay.
And you can kind of dive into it from there because your guides aren't huge on like showing you images of your kids getting maimed. Like that's not the zone. There is, I for a long time had a belief where I needed to be prepared for everything, which would oftentimes keep me stuck in this very deep cycle of anxiety because I would imagine like the 75 worst possible case scenario that could happen.
Yeah.
And I would notice my guides would make sure to not let me see the one thing that did happen. So like my guides would like, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this could be happening and this could happen wrong and this could happen right. You know, I could imagine all the outcomes that could possibly happen in a situation. And no matter what, I wouldn't actually imagine the right one. Oops.
Okay, I feel like that all the time. If I worry about something, literally the thing that happens is not at all what I worry about. So now I've just decided, look, you can't control what's going to happen here. You literally are not going to guess the thing that it's going to happen. So I have that too.
So then you can start to be like, oh, okay. So I know it's going to be none of these things because they've proven it to me over and over and over. So these things that are coming up that's saying something about me and the way I'm processing energetic info. So like,
Okay.
what am I thinking and feeling when I'm feeling these things? What am I trying to prepare for actually? What am I truly scared of? And the goal is never to get rid of any fear or any one emotion, because fear is still essential. Like if there's a tiger in the room that's going to eat your face, you want to be scared. But like, you don't need to be afraid that no matter what choice you make, it's going to cause some pain to the person next to you. You don't need to be afraid that you can't predict someone's emotional reaction and therefore they're going to hate you. Like those things don't need to have fear.
Right.
And that's the fear that we're trying to heal.
Okay. Okay. One of the big things right now that's going on in my life is I feel like when you were talking about the river, I was really getting a lot of like feelings about that symbolism, because I feel like I've unclogged the river in my life and it's running so fast, Emily, that I can't deal with all the water. And it's happy water, like it's all good stuff, but I'm physically getting taken under a little bit by the amount of it. And so that is one of the things where I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean I need to slow down the water, or I just need to embrace the water a little bit more? How do we know?
So good question. What I would say for you, just specifically in your situation, tuning into your guides and stuff, it's a lesson about boundaries that's coming up for you, because you haven't had to set boundaries where positive things are concerned before.
Oh, that is a really good one.
Yeah.
That's
so
really good. Yeah.
I actually have known that for a couple weeks. I got on the phone with somebody and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to tell her, no, I can't do her project. I got on the phone with her and I really liked her. Just like I'm having a conversation with you. I was like, I feel like you're my people. I'm going to have to do this. I even told her, I said, I was prepared to tell you no, and I really like you and I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's where now it's also because your life is evolving. This is directly from your guides. Because your life is evolving at a rapid rate, you're readjusting who you actually are in relation to the manifestations that are actually coming to you. So you've manifested so much of this stuff. Now who you are has to catch up with the things you've called in. And that's part of the reason why it feels a little bit overwhelming, is because you're understanding that you have far more capacity than you ever imagined that you would.
So how do I get there? Do I just keep following this process and keep working on boundaries? Because I am working on that. I don't think I'm doing a great job, but I am working on it.
Boundaries is huge. That's the big lesson from a lot of this, according to your guides. The second thing that I would really tune into is what actually feels the most fun for you to do. Because if there's things that are weighing down your energy that are causing most of this overwhelm, that means those things are not in alignment. And those are the first things that you should probably cut.
Okay. Ooh, good one. Okay, good one.
Emily, you're so good.
I know.
When you were married and you were like not in a happy place, what kind of work did you do?
I've done so many different jobs. So when I was with my abusive ex, I actually sold cars.
Okay.
New cars, like brand new cars from a lot?
I sold Nissan and Subaru. And then after that, I actually ended up working on a horseback riding kind of dude ranch. So I was a horseback tour guide up here in Tahoe.
Oh, fun.
And talk about reclaiming your power. There's nothing that makes you reclaim your power faster than throwing you into a herd of 65 horses and telling you to find the right one. Like, you get there.
Yeah.
So that was really awesome. And then before I really started doing this full time, I was an HR manager.
Oh, wow. Okay. So back to the cars. Could you tell if somebody was going to buy a car, if they were interested? Like, how did your empathy and your gifts come into?
It was actually horrendous because the environment was so terrible. I couldn't get pings on anyone or anything because the actual management, the people there, it was just so toxic, like constantly, that it was like walking into a burning building every day. And that's the feeling I would get all the time.
Okay.
So it was like, not only was I already in that horrible space where I really couldn't tune into psychic thing anyway, but the only thing that was greeting me was more horrible space. So it was just like suffocation.
Now you said like after you left the abusive relationship and everything, then you tried to call out to get your things back and they weren't coming. Like, so what happened? What changed for you? How did that start to unfold for you?
Well, I called out and I was like, yeah, they're going to come back and I'm so ready. Like, bring it on. And then nothing happened because my river was so jammed up with all of the stuff I had just gone through.
Okay.
And so basically, it was a deeper level of understanding of, first of all, I really need to understand the things that I actually need to heal and release. I can't just take this shortcut of now all the magic's back, and because then I'm going to bypass all this stuff. And spiritual bypassing is a thing. A lot of people use spirituality a lot of the time to avoid healing and looking at things, because it's easier to play with tarot cards than it is to actually look at your own healing sometimes. So that is a thing. And I didn't want to do that necessarily, but it was okay. So I can't just look at all this fun psychic stuff and have it work. I actually have to do healing stuff. And that was the game changer. Of course, it can be really fun though. And that was the other thing that was the real trigger for me, is like, let's make it easy. Let's make it fun. And then I developed my own systems to make it easy and fun through a lot of trial and error. One of my book, I have it right here. You guys can see it. My Damsel No More book, this one, is all about the process that I did where I took healing from abuse trauma and turned it into a role-playing game like D&D. And so that's what's the process I describe in this book, because that's another like system that I made that worked for myself to make something fun. And so making it fun was really just like the key to releasing all of it.
Well, and what you do on your TikTok, which is why I like you, or like following you, because I feel like you take these little bite-sized chunks and you say, okay, today it's going to be on, many different topics, but one of the ones that I listened to last was the one where you were talking about, I want to say you said cutting the cord, Leslie, but it was something like people in your life that you don't want to be connected to. And I thought you said you had to actually go in and physically disconnect from them. It was something like that. I'm probably not getting it verbatim but it was, you're questioning me, because it was something like, do I just like be calm and imagine myself going to them and saying, hey, I think it was an ex. I want to say it was you were talking about an ex-boyfriend or something, but you had to like, or maybe I was thinking, I think it was me that was thinking the ex-boyfriend. No.
Well, when it comes to cord cutting, since it seems like something that's coming up, and I feel like we should like authentically hold space for anything that comes up, because there's obviously a reason that it is. So hopefully this helps the listeners too. Cord cutting is less about you going into the other person's energy and more about disconnecting their energy from yours. So as opposed to, I need to go to their energy and I need to convince them to release the cord or any of that. That's not what it is. It's, I'm done with this connection. You can no longer siphon off of me. And I'm going to take my energy and slice this cord that is holding you to me and basically shield myself from it going forward. Now it's a very advanced form of energy healing work. So it's harder for me to be like, I can give you a visualization to do that with when you don't have a lot of other prep stuff kind of that you are familiar with going forward. But at the core of it, that's what cord cutting is, because it's basically humans energetically, we're all sponges. We're just like SpongeBob walking around soaking up everybody else's stuff like constantly. And no matter what, that's what we're supposed to do, because it's a survival instinct inside of our energy, because that allows us to communicate with people on an energetic level. They've actually done a lot of scientific studies where cells communicate with one another using energy. So if you heal something in your cells, it can actually communicate to someone else who's having trouble in their cells and heal their cells just over energy waves. So like,
wait, can you say that again? Say that again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Yeah, no worries. So they've actually, so when I'm saying like our energies speak to each other, of course, I'm talking metaphysically, energetically, but they've done a lot of scientific studies where they've proven that our cells actually communicate energetically to one another. So based on electromagnetic fields and all sorts of crazy other quantum things. But basically, if you've healed something in your cells, opened something up in your DNA, healed through something, then the cells of another person can actually pick up on that, and your cells can heal their cells over the energy waves. So it's pretty crazy.
Wow. So is that like a person that you just run into at the grocery store? Is it like a person in your life?
All of them.
Close to you.
Yep. Whoa. So our energy fields are constantly working and talking with each other, which is oftentimes why whenever people tell you to clear your energy, it's because you have other people's stuff in your field. We all do all the time. Yeah. So
what? Not always positive things too, right?
No, it's not always positive things.
Like if somebody does something, they cut you off in traffic and it pisses you off, and then you may honk at somebody next or be crabby at work or something like that. Is that kind of the gist of this, or is this is a bigger, like the cells of your body are healing? Like,
Kind of. It's some of that of like just you absorb some person's negative energy. If people around you are having very dense emotional experiences, oftentimes you'll leave that situation and you feel extra down or you feel extra tired. Or a lot of times when I get this all the time, people will be like, I have so much anxiety and I don't know why. And I go, cool. When you get anxious, do you clear your energy? Because if you're not clearing your energy, chances are you're reacting to anxiety that doesn't even belong to you.
And I've listened to you talk about clearing your energy, but can you say it again?
Oh, yeah.
I have trouble doing what I hear.
Totally.
So let you talk about that.
So clearing your energy, and just to touch on the cord cutting piece, essentially cords are an evolution of an energetic attachment. So it's not like you just took something in, it's that someone else has sent you so much dense energy and you sent them back so much dense energy. It created an energetic bond that even though that person might not be physically near you anymore, or even that you haven't talked to them in 10 years, you might still have that energetic bond because of the dense energy that created it. So just to finish up on the cord cutting thing, cutting that off is literally being like, I'm done with absorbing your energy and you're done absorbing mine. I'm severing that bond.
Do you think if you have that kinetic energy or I don't know if it's kinetic, that they have it too? Is it a two-way street, or could you just be attached to them and they have no friggin' clue why you're even still thinking about it?
Cords are typically two-way streets because it's an energetic connection. So it's a back and forth type of situation. Now they might not have any idea, but that doesn't mean that the cord's not there.
Okay.
Most of the time they probably don't have any idea. Most of the time we don't even have an idea about our cords until we really tune into it. And it's like, oh my gosh, that one coworker from that many years ago who had that one traumatic experience, I gave them that much energy, I made a cord. Like, what? Let's get rid of that. Like whatever it is.
It reminds me of cleaning out my storage on my Apple.
Totally.
Managing my storage.
Totally. And so cords are like an advanced version, essentially, of this kind of energy absorption that we all do. So to clear your energy, and I clear my energy, I don't know, 30 times a day, probably more, like just constantly. Because if I have a really dense conversation with my husband, I definitely absorbed what he was feeling. So I'm going to clear that out. If I go to the grocery store, every single person I came in contact with, some of their energy is going to rub off on me, depending upon, even if I go for like a hike, the energy of the land, I'm going to soak up. So like, I don't necessarily want any of the trauma the land may have held at some given point. So I'm going to clear that out. Like, all the time. If I'm ever having a dense emotional reaction to anything, my first gut instinct is clear your energy. And I'm not even kidding you, 50% of the time the feeling goes away.
Okay, so tell us how to do that.
Yeah.
So it's super simple.
Okay.
It's really, really easy. There's also, if you want to go deeper with this, there's about 30 million meditations online to do this sort of thing. But my technique is super simple. It's based on the principle that our energy fields are our own. So nothing can exist in your energy field without your permission. So you giving your energy field a command, the things within it need to respond to said command because they are existing in your energy space. So you start off by doing an energy clearing by making a command, either out loud or in your head. It doesn't have to be out loud. If you're in the grocery store, that could be a little funky. So do it in your head. That's fine. But you say any thoughts, feelings, energies, or emotions that do not belong to me must leave my space now. Just say it.
Thoughts, emotions,
feelings
and energy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then once you say that, first of all, you're already going to feel it leaving because you've said it. You'll be like, whoo, okay, stuff is already going. And then just to kind of get a little like oomph to it, you just want to imagine or visualize. Whenever I say visualize, I mean sense, hear, feel, see, or know. Because people are like, I can't see it. That's totally fine. You can sense it. You can feel it. You can hear it. Like any of those things. It doesn't have to just be seeing. And so when I say visualize, you can just do any of those too. Visualize either a waterfall of light or a waterfall of water, whatever it comes to you first as, just quickly washing through you and into the dirt.
Oh, I like that.
And that's it.
Okay.
Very simple.
That's awesome.
I have that feeling in my body right now.
Uh-huh.
I usually do it through like a yawn or a deep breath. But I like the visual of the waterfall because it encompasses like washing your whole thing. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like this is why I love your little TikToks, because they're so simple and quick and easy, and you don't make them this big confusing thing. You're just little snippets every day of, hey, here's
you make the spirit world not scary. Like I think a lot of people have that fear, or it's just they think we're all witches, or I think you just make it seem so natural, and I think that's one great thing about all the social media stuff. It's made those things not so scary anymore.
Yeah.
And how about your kiddos? Do they have any talents in this department that we know of yet?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, everybody does. So there's not a
Okay.
single person on this planet that doesn't have these psychic abilities.
Are they in tune with them, I should say?
They're pretty into them. So I have 3
Okay.
kids. They're 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
And yeah, and all of them are very in tune.
Okay.
My youngest daughter has ADHD, so she has a lot of like energy everywhere things, but she's very connected to like nature. She has a very inventive mind, so she can imagine and sense and pick up and channel these like crazy things. She's an incredibly old soul. She can tell you every fact that ever happened to the continent of Atlantis. Like she's got you. And then my middle son, he actually has cerebral palsy and ADHD as well, and he's very emotionally like empathic, like on such an extreme level. So that comes up very strongly with him, which is both a battle and also a gift. So we're really diving into that kind of space. And then my eldest daughter is like, she astral travels in her sleep. Like she'll be like, I had this dream where I went to this thing, and I'm like, yeah, I can validate, like I've astral traveled there in daytime, like, you know, and like that sort of thing. Like, she's very, very in tuned and connected, and you know, they all have their own set of like oracle cards that they can use, and they're all like, they have pendulums, like they have all the stuff to kind of get clarity on that too. So
okay, you just jumped to 2 big things. Astral traveling, we've talked about that a little bit before, but I think I would love to hear from your perspective. Can you explain it a little bit? And then the pendulum, which Leslie bought me one. I need to practice it probably more, but let's talk about the astral traveling at night.
I'm so excited that you have a pendulum, because all of your validation fears, like all your doubts, are just totally going to go away because the pendulum works. And you know, so I'm so excited for that.
We had a group of kids that we were all very close. There was 3 families of us, and I bought all of them pendulums for Christmas, like really simple ones that I got from when I did hypnotherapy school. And we went over it, like how you can like look at different parts of the body and figure out where's the injury at, to like just asking simple questions. So like I played with all of that stuff with them, and everybody was accepting of it. Even their parents, we were all in it together. So,
yeah, but do you think they went away and were like, oh, she's a Looney Tune?
Oh yeah, totally.
I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So astral travel, it's kind of hard to give like a brief description, because there's a lot of like deep energetic stuff that kind of goes into it. At the core of it, we all have a light body that's basically essentially our soul that's existing within this physical vessel. Like if we're touching it there, is it our whole soul? No. Our higher self has our whole soul. We're a fragment of our higher self. That's kind of how we're existing. Okay. And that's why people, whenever they ask like, can we have multiple lifetimes at the same time? Totally. You're just a fragment of a soul right now. So of course you can have a different lifetime too, because there's more fragments than just you. And that all goes into your higher self. Anyway, so you have this light
That's
body.
a little bit up here. I'm trying to absorb it. I'm trying to absorb that. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to say it in really simple, like make it as concrete as possible, but you asked about like a way spiritual thing. So I'm like, all right, let's explain the layered cake of the universe in 10 sentences or less.
I love that.
So when you astral travel, people call it going to the astral plane. Essentially, it's just like the energetic plane that's directly above ourselves. So it's a little bit higher vibration than this one. So we can't necessarily see it with our physical eyes, but we can feel it with our energy. It's just a higher vibe space that exists essentially just like stacked on top of our current reality. So you get to, when you astral project, you get to go into that essentially plane, and then you can travel energetically. It's your energy body. You're always corded to yourself. You're never going to get disconnected. And I always want to say that. And I don't recommend astral traveling unless you know how to and you're protected and shielded and all that stuff, just because you're going into just a different energetic space. And so you want to be really ready. But then you can go to other planets, other planes of existences, other timelines, different parts of our current world.
Can you go back and forth between lives? So you can go back lives, but then you can also go forward lives, right?
Linear time is only a human constraint.
You said that before on one of your things. I remember that. And I was like, whoosh. Okay. So how do you know when it's astral travel? I'm saying that right? Astral traveling versus a dream.
It feels very different. So in dreams, you can get a lot of intuitive messages and stuff in dreams still like that. that is still very open. And I mean, I've had dreams where I've seen past lives, and I've had dreams where I've done energetic work and gotten all of my ideas from my books. Like all of it comes in dreams. So that's still a thing you can do. But astral travel in your dreams will feel like you are walking through a reality. You can control things. You know that you're astral traveling during a dream at the core of it. You're like, hey, I was there. Like, it's not like I felt real. I knew it was real. Like I was there. Things were happening. Like I was actually there.
I don't know that I've ever felt
control that part. Like you can control what you're doing in that dream.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now it's a little bit different than lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is letting whatever dreams happen with it. You're just awake within them. So no matter what, even if you're having a dream that you're inside the internet, like you're awake and you can still control and do things.
And you're like, oh, I'm dreaming.
Right.
I've had that before.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Where astral travel, you're like, oh no, I went to a place. Like I'm there. Like I controlled where I went, basically, you know, like I got prompted to go here. I went here. I did stuff here. I knew what my goal was here. I accomplished it or didn't accomplish it, or stuff happened. And then I chose to come back to wake up.
So I don't think that's ever happened to me.
It's a very intense spiritual thing. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
That's like some very dense, some people are really, really attuned with it.
Okay. And
they actually struggle with sleep a lot of times because they're like, I just do all this work while I sleep and I don't get to sleep. So it's really just dependent. I don't like to astral travel in my dreams. I'd rather do it consciously, where I'm choosing to go astral travel to somewhere, but I've done classes and stuff on that and like worked with it a lot on my own and that sort of thing.
Now, I watched see that movie. It was just like it wasn't like a real movie, wasn't based on a true story, but can you only go to places that you've been before? No. Okay. In this movie, you had to go, like she had to go visit this person's apartment so that she could go there later. But that's not true. Yeah.
No. I've traveled I've astral traveled to all sorts of different locations that I'm like, I don't think I've ever been here. Even my higher self, I'm not sure if I've ever been here before.
So you do it during the day. You say, okay, I want to astral travel right now to somewhere.
It's like a form of meditation.
Oh, okay. Leslie, you need to practice that.
I mean, I would start with the tuning in and connecting with your spirit guides, getting messages about your past life thing. And then you can go to the astral travel stuff. If it intrigues you, if it feels fun, absolutely dive into it. Okay. But you want it to make sure it feels fun and not scary and not overwhelming. Like it has to feel fun to be in alignment.
And it doesn't scare your daughter?
Well, like I said, in the dreams, she just wakes up. She's like, this crazy thing happened to me, you know, and it's just, it is what it is. And also we've been really open and talked about this sort of stuff since they were born.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know? So,
what does your husband think about all of this?
Oh, he's just as spiritual as I am.
Okay.
Yeah. My husband is an amazing human being, and I am so freaking thankful for him.
Yeah.
Yay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go,
pendulum question.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have to talk pendulum.
I want to know what my gifts are.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
I got it. So with your pendulums, as Leslie will say, there's like a million ways to use a pendulum. There's so many different ways to do it. But my favorite way is to get validation. So especially for those of you who really struggle with doubt, or you don't know if you're picking up on any intuitive pings, anything like that, you can ask questions of your guides. You can also ask questions of yourself to get validation. So I always recommend calibrating your pendulum first. Wear it on your person for a day, get it attuned with your energy, just let it be near you. And then you want to set for it what it would need to move like in order to give you a yes, what it would need to move like in order to give you a no. So my yes is always swinging it forward and back. My no is always side to side. Sometimes people do it clockwise versus counterclockwise spinning. Totally up to you, whatever feels nice. Which is most of what I teach is, hey, whatever feels nice to you, do that. Like at the core of it. So what you want to first do with your pendulum is let it do the swinging, swing it back and forth and say the word yes, swing it side to side and say the word no, or do the spinning, and then test it. So be like, my name is Emily, and make sure that it starts to swing forward and back, and then be like, I am a pickle, and make sure it starts to swing side to side, with those statements. Okay. Now, if you want to get validation for yourself, I intuitively just had a ping, or that thing I thought about my past life is correct. Let it swing yes, let it swing no. Always rephrase it though. If you're getting no's and you're like, that's weird, I feel like that's really a yes, it's probably something to do with your phrasing.
Okay.
The other caveat with that, just to warn everybody, the word not has no energetic signature. So whenever you use the word not only does your brain and energy not hear it, but pendulums can't understand it. So if you're testing for a limiting belief you might hold and you use the word, I'm not enough, Your pendulum's testing for I am enough because there's no energetic signature over the word not.
Oh, okay. So don't use the word not.
Always rephrase around it. Yeah.
Okay. We had somebody on that said something about the way you hold it. There's a right and a wrong way. Wasn't she saying that some people have it too long, Leslie? Do you have a length, Emily?
No, whatever feels nice to me. Like truly,
Okay.
that's the kind of core of it. If it feels lovely to you, then it's going to be aligned with your energy.
Well, remember, Melissa, we were in the salon. I'm like, I don't know, maybe hold her closer to the table. Like, I don't know, maybe it needs to be longer. I think we were, because nothing was happening with her. It was just barely. So I was like,
it was just like a little baby.
Okay.
But maybe you just need to hold it, keep it on you a little bit longer. And let your
the other thing, and this is weird and it shouldn't impact it, but it totally does. If you're dehydrated, it's not going to work.
Oh, wow.
Can it also, like, you saying things out loud to it, but can it go through your thoughts?
Yeah, that was a question we had.
Yeah, it can. Absolutely.
Like, if I want it to be true, am I making it true with a yes?
Well, so that's based on phrasing.
Okay.
So make sure you have intention and phrasing behind everything you do.
Okay.
I try to just kind of blank myself out when I'm asking my pendulum questions.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I'm detached from the answer. Whatever it is, it's going to be, and I'm going to deal with it. So who cares?
How often do you use your pendulum?
Well, right now my pendulums took itself on an extended vacation. So
she needs Jeanette, Leslie.
It's around.
Somewhere.
Yeah. I was kind of like, okay, that means I don't need it for a while. Like, I'll just, until it comes back, I'll figure it out. Like, it's fine. I use my pendulum fairly often. I usually use my pendulum more often when I am working on doing like card readings for myself or anything like that. Then I'll pull out my pendulum too and just kind of work in that space. I use muscle testing, which is basically like using your body as a pendulum more than I use anything else.
Okay, explain that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the same concept as a pendulum, you're just using your body as it. So there's a couple different ways to do this. I'll just teach you one really, really quick. But essentially muscle testing is your physical body knows truths that your human brain is blocking out. Knows truths that your human brain doesn't understands energy in a way your human brain can't. So when you want a muscle test, you want to just kind of stand up straight. I know you guys listeners can't really see my hand, but you guys can see my hand. So here we go. So you just kind of stand up straight. And then you calibrate it just like the pendulum. So say the word yes and let your body just fall forward and then straighten yourself back out. And then say the word no and let your body just fall back and straighten yourself back out. And then test it. My name is Emily. Let yourself fall forward. Like, I am a pickle. Let yourself fall back. And then you can ask questions. And that's really, really good. It's less good for communicating with your guides necessarily, but it's more about understanding yourself and truths that you hold and things like if you feel like you've healed something, testing to see if you've healed it. Is eating a salad in my highest and best today? Let yourself fall forward or fall back. Should I enjoy this hamburger right now as opposed to this, like you let yourself, yes, no, that sort of thing. I do it for anything is it in my highest and best muscle test to see if it is in my highest and best. And that comes down to sometimes I'm like, I'm really dreading to go to the store. Is it in my highest and best to go to the store right now? And if it says yes, I'm like, all right, fine, let's do it. If it says no, I'm like, cool, that was valid dread. I don't want to go.
Mine's always going to say no.
You don't know that because it's knowing on a higher level. So the cool thing is it ignores your emotions.
Yeah.
Your emotions have no bearing.
Okay.
It's the core truth of it. Yeah. So that's what I do more often than pendulum.
Interesting.
That's so cool.
That is.
I'll have to work on that one.
Yeah.
Same thing with dehydrated. If you're dehydrated, it won't work. And don't use the word not.
Okay.
I definitely don't drink enough water.
Water is super important. So water, there's a ton of quantum stuff I won't say about water, but water is a very, very important thing. We actually did a whole podcast episode with a water expert because there's so much to it. But if
did you watch the Zac Efron documentary?
I didn't actually. I've had it recommended to me like twice though. So
yeah, there's one on water and he goes to a water expert. I think it's a water bar, like restaurant in LA. And in fact, I was just talking about this weekend because he basically says, yeah, if you're drinking purified water, there's no real reason to even be drinking it. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah. The same thing with reclaimed water. It's really bad for you.
Yeah.
And any water in a bottle is most likely dead water and you need to like reliven that water. Like it's like a whole thing energetically.
Yeah.
Water also doesn't like metal. So if it's in metal, you want to swirl it around to like make it wake up. It's better to drink your water out of glass. Like it's a whole field of study. That's just mind blowing. But yeah, if you want to get better with your psychic gifts, drink more water.
I don't like drinking water out of metal.
Crap.
That's very
It was this
interesting.
nice little Yeti thing I got for this.
Okay, that's
I'm
the
gonna
deal.
squirt my water.
Okay,
It's right here, and I still always drink it out of water.
but let me point out, I'm okay with it if the liquid is in there, but then I drink it out of a straw.
Okay. Yeah. But
For some
That's
reason.
not water, Melissa.
if you spiral it,
That was
first,
iced
it
tea.
re-enlivens it and gives you actual more benefits.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good to know.
Whoa.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, Leslie, she wants to know her limiting beliefs. Was that it? No, she wants to know her
I have so many limiting beliefs.
No, you wanted to know how you can,
I want to know what my
your clairs are.
so I know how to unjam my river.
Yeah. So you're really, really strong clairvoyance. You can visualize things very well. You can see energetic images of things. You can probably have, when you were a kid, I would be willing to bet you were able to see things like ghosts, spirits, energy orbs, that sort of thing. Kind of.
I want that back.
Yeah. See, you could do it. It can come back totally. You just got to clear out your river. It totally is possible. And it always is a gradual thing.
Okay. I'm going to pay you to clean out my river. So
I mean, I can do some of the river cleaning. Some of it you got to learn how to do it on your own.
Okay.
Because it's not like it's never done. It's not like all of a sudden you're like, yay, all of my limiting beliefs, trauma, and energy blocks are miraculously disappeared. Like you always have more stuff come up, but that's fun. That's good. Yeah. That means you're gradually developing at the rate you're supposed to be gradually developing. It's fantastic. So that's a huge one though. Clairvoyance is big for you. Okay. With that too, like the way that your guide sent you the numbers, you'll see visual signs of things. And also it can be really helpful, especially if you're trying to tune into and channel your guides. I was actually making a TikTok on this today, to assign them an image that you view them as, if you're just like, I think you look like an angel. So just picture like a generic angel.
Okay.
And then you'll notice over time, your guides will change the way that image looks. And there's no reason for you logically to change that image. That's what you're visualizing. So it's a form of validation that you're actually communicating, getting messages from them because they're changing the way your angel looks or whatever your guide looks like. So that's a big one for you, is the clairvoyance piece. You also have some clairaudience, but most of the time you discredit it because it sounds like it's coming in your own voice in the back of your mind. It literally feels like it comes in the back of your mind. It'll come lower down, and it comes in your voice, but it always talks in a different cadence because you're communicating with guides, you're communicating with energies, spirits, whatever. So even though it sounds like your voice, because that's what our human brain's going to be comfortable with hearing, it'll be like all of a sudden you get, talk down to yourself really sarcastically about something and you're like, I would not say that to me. Like, where is that coming from? And
or would she?
Right, but
very sarcastic.
Whatever it is though, like in a way you probably wouldn't say it, a different cadence. All of a sudden it's really slow that you're talking to yourself or something in that zone. And that's really strong for you as well.
Awesome.
I see
it's
that
interesting because I can't hear very well in one ear. So I never thought like one of my strong suits would be something in that hearing, but it's all internal. Okay.
But Leslie, you've told me things before that were going to happen, and they have happened. And when you told me them, you go, okay, so this is what I thought about you. These are the things. And then you go at the end, she will always say, but I don't know, I could have been making it up. Like literally we'll say all those things. And then you're like,
well, I have to put that in just in case I just made it all up, right? Like just in case I'm wrong. I don't know, but actually when she was saying, like you were saying your river's going through, like, remember when I said you were going to have an assistant of some sort?
Yes.
I was like, when you were explaining that, I'm like, maybe this is the time that this person's coming to you who's going to be your helper.
Boundaries.
Yeah. Okay, Emily, we've taken so much of your time, but I do want to finish up I want you to tell people about what books you've written, so that if they want to read more, they can. How to get in touch with you if they want a reading, how to find you on social media. Give us the lowdown of all that.
Absolutely. So the book I'm promoting right now is Damsel No More. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, Target.
Is it audiobook too?
It's not audiobook yet.
Okay,
it is me. It's me narrating the audiobook. But it's not out just yet. But yeah, there's that. And that's my D&D approach to healing trauma. So if storylines work really well for you, that'll help a lot. And it's super fun. It's a game. The best place if you want to go more in depth with some of these topics I've been talking about, of course, you can follow my TikTok. Those are like really quick little snippets. My handle is @liker of words. But I also run a metaphysical comedy podcast. It's called Perceptionist Anonymous. It's me and a co-host, and we cover so many different things. Just this past week, we had Freddie Silva on. He is the world's leading researcher in how temples affect human consciousness. So he was great. Like, we've had tons of different cool guests on there. We've done episodes on, I mean, we've even had like Will Ferrell's psychic on there, and like all these like random crazy people.
So cool.
And then we do episodes on, every type of different topics, whether it was like Atlantis or this past week we did the energy of topography and like just tons of different things. So that's that. If you want to go really deep, that's the best way to go with me. And then I'm on Instagram at Liker of Words as well. And Twitter, if you want to go there, which is just basically all writing stuff. And then if you want to book a reading with me, I can't see your phone.
I know, I'm trying to is this the right one? How do I do that?
You can't say anything. It looks all black.
Yeah. Energetically, right now, I'm telling you it's the right one. I can feel it. You're good. Mm-hmm.
It looks like a bunch of cards.
Yep, that's mine.
And okay.
See, there we go.
Plus, we have all the email addresses here, or
the
website app. Yeah, we have the links here.
Yeah, and if you want to book a reading with me, I will warn you in advance. I am currently booked up till about August, so you do have to book kind of far out.
Okay. And where do we go to book that?
Leslie needs help unlogging her river before August.
I'm in no hurry. I waited my entire life.
That's true. That's true.
Good.
Yeah, it's damselnomore.com. So the same name as my book, but .com. And on there you can book a reading.
So as a side note, Miss Emily, how do you set boundaries for yourself when you have so many things that you are doing, so many eggs in your basket? How do you, since you're out till August, that must mean that you set certain dates of the week that you're going to do those readings. Yeah. How do you set those boundaries for yourself?
What is the most fun for me?
Okay.
That's literally my mantra of everything. I know I love writing books, so I have certain blocks of time that is the most fun for me to be writing in, and I will write during those time periods. With my courses that my coaching programs and stuff like that, like those are set very specifically I feel really aligned working before this time on these days of the week. So if we're doing a call, it needs to be before this time on these days of the week, because that's when I feel really good doing it. I one-on-one psychically coach people. I can only take on 2 of those clients at a time, absolute max. Usually I only keep it to 1. Because that gives you full texting access to me. And then also we have, once to twice weekly calls, depending upon what they need. And that's like psychic coaching, like hard style, like let's clear your river. Let's make sure you're practicing these things, like massive expansion. So for them, that I really hold that too, also to what feels aligned with me, what feels like most fun. Today, I'm not available to do a call. That doesn't feel good, but we can do a call tomorrow at this time if that feels good with you, like that kind of thing.
So how do you determine how long it's going to take? Because like I have projects, that's kind of what I do too, but I don't always know how long that project is going to take to get finished. So how do you do that with a client?
So with a client, well, it's a little bit different from a client versus a project. That being said, I do hold myself, and this is probably not what I would recommend for a lot of other people, but for me personally, I hold myself to ridiculous standards and deadlines, and I always have. That's how I work. I stay up till 1, 2 a.m. every day, like on par, and then wake up about like 8:30, something like that, which is just really normal for me. But as far as like one-on-one calls or any calls with clients, those are an hour. They're not going more. If you have other questions, that's what you can text me for. That's what you can post in the group for. But if it's not done within this hour, then it's not meant to be done within this hour.
Yeah.
And I do put everything in the energy's hands. Like at the core of it, I'm like, listen, this is the time that I'm holding for myself. And if for some reason you didn't get to speak or you didn't get let in, because I do group, stuff too. And like, if that didn't work, then it wasn't the right time for you to have that. So you can just ask in the group, and that's where it's going to be more aligned for you to receive your answer.
Ooh, I like that.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell Leslie's like on the website right now.
I'm trying to remember my PayPal password, because I'm like,
well, I can't help you there. I can tell you that my podcast is what you're looking at, but your password is a little out of the realm.
I'm very ADD, so I if I don't do it right now, I probably won't remember.
Yeah, like literally we'll be on with somebody and she's like ordering their book before we've even like stopped talking about the book. She's just like so funny about that. She has to do it right now.
I just feel like it's not going to go. I won't remember to do it if I
And
don't.
I have to write things down or it's not going to happen. So
I feel like that's very self-aware of both of you.
Yeah.
Like that's like how your energy works versus
Yep.
how your energy works. Like for me, I don't like to start my workday before 10 a.m. I won't. I pretty
Good
much
for
refuse
you.
to.
I
Well,
kind of would like that too.
then set your time that way.
Yeah.
You get to hold the space for yourself, because I mean that's why I left corporate HR, right? I'm like, I'm going to do it myself now, thanks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
energy doesn't work
unfortunately,
good early.
as you were saying, I do work, sometimes till almost midnight, and I don't necessarily want to. I just feel like my workload is so heavy right now that, I need to, but I don't want to get up at the crack of dawn to do it. I'm not a 5 a.m.er, under any circumstances. I don't care what time I go to bed. Like under no circumstances do I want to be up at 5 a.m.
No, unless I'm traveling somewhere fun.
Yes.
Not in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And with working late at night, I save my most fun things for late at night. So if it's my writing my book time, or if it's my meditating time, or whatever it is, because I know what's going to be most fun for me, that's when I save it for.
I do too.
I try to do that, but then I get really tired after being up with the kids and stuff. Like I try to save my time for when they're going to bed or whatever, and I just can't stay awake any longer.
Well, then that's obviously not where you should be putting it.
Yeah.
For your energy, it doesn't feel fun.
That's right. And I love that about you. And I love like what was on your homepage right when
You're magical as fuck.
Yeah, I love that.
That's my kind of mantra with everything.
I love it. Well, Emily, thank you so much for being on with us. And you're just delightful. And I'm so glad that you shared with us today all those wonderful things. And Leslie, do you have any last minute things?
I'm sure I'm going to have a million questions after we get off the phone here. But I do appreciate you taking your time today. I know that you're super busy after looking at the schedule here. And in a few minutes, when I reset my password, I will definitely be booking for August 2nd. And I look forward to that.
I'm so excited. It'll be really fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to get your book and all kinds of things now. So you give me something to look forward to. And I love that it doesn't sound like to have fun with it. Like it doesn't have to be hard work. And and I really, really, really want to see ghosts and spirits. And you say I can do that later? Okay.
Totally.
Melissa knows how badly. Like
she does.
Or maybe I do. Like I think maybe I overthink it, and that's why I can't. Or maybe I'm just not ready yet.
I mean, I recommend like go to a place where there's probably spirits, where you just have an inkling, whether it's an old building or just your friend's apartment. It doesn't really matter. Like a place where you feel like there's spirits.
Yeah.
And sit down, close your eyes, and see what you sense, hear, feel, see, or know.
Okay.
And
Whatever
don't take
up.
a gaggle of kids with you and some couple moms. This is what she does, Emily. She will take a whole gaggle of her children plus their moms, and she will go to this hotel, this scary hotel that has, spirits. And then she'll be like, why didn't anything show up? You need to go by yourself.
Part of the reason why, when there's too much energy around you that you're intimately connected to, it often bombards you especially when you're trying to tune in. So you also have to focus to be like, I'm shutting out anything that's not this spirit, like consciously doing that. But that's kind of your first step, is to just like open yourself up. And even if you get a picture of an apple sent to you, like it might have significance you don't really know. And that's part of it too, is like release the pressure for you to know anything of what's coming to you. It's not yours. You're just translating it. And just like if you were translating one language to another, you have no emotional connection to how the words come out. It's the same way.
Okay.
I must go now. I'm going to play with my pendulum.
Okay. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, you guys. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Bye.